bringing it to them all day. You know what's up? Welcome to Birdland. Win or lose, we bringing it to you always. You know what's up? Welcome to Birdland. Orange or black, we rebuild the pack. No matter where we at, you know we coming back. Section 336, we on this, so tune in. You know what's up? Welcome to Birdland. Yeah, welcome to Birdland. You know what's up? Welcome to Birdland. Now, here come the boys from Section 336.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Baltimore sports fans of all ages, welcome to Section 336, Next Generation of Baltimore Sports Talk. I am your endearingly stuttering host, Matt Sroka, and as always, I'm joined by the button lover, Josh Sroka.
It was 80 degrees today in St. Augustine.
Okay.
So just letting you know, it's January 25th. Happy birthday to Bert, Zany Bert Rhodey.
Oh, yeah.
But it is 80 degrees down here in Florida while you guys are dealing with some cold weather. So I was happy to have some nice warm weather today.
Nice. I saw the Zany one yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah.
For his
first time at
birthday?
all. No. Well, kind of, yeah. Because it was just our sister's birthday, and it's Bert's birthday, and your birthday somewhere in there, too. All you guys have birthdays together. But we just kind of had them over to hang out.
Speaking of Zany Bert Rhodey, I was texting with him today, and I also was having some new artwork done for some Birdland sports stuff that we'll talk about later and all. But the whole reason I'm bringing it up now is because I decided that logos are boring. I want Birdland sports to have a mascot. So I told the guy to draw me a mascot, and I said, I want it kind of like the Oriole bird, but obviously different. But I want it to be like obviously that he's a fan there cheering on, like us in our seats or whatever.
And he drew the Zany Bert Rhodey?
I think he drew the Zany Bert Rhodey as a bird. Can you see that?
Yeah.
I texted it to Bert, and I said, I'm pretty sure that you're my mascot now. So, because he's got the one thumb up like Bert always does in every photo. So I was excited to see that come out that way.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, happy birthday, Bert.
Yeah. Yes. We have a lot to get to today. There's a lot going on here that we need to get to the bottom of with the Orioles.
Have the Orioles had a worse 48 hours of PR as they had on Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, whenever that was?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. Yeah. I can't recall.
And I feel like they scrambled for today's announcement to try to get some goodwill back. And we're going to break all this down.
Right.
But it seems like today was a little scramble to try to be like, oh, we really screwed up last week.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting a bad off season, i.e. like a slow off season. But this has been bad on a lot of different levels. And we're going to get into it because I think maybe we should have seen the writing on the wall. But we'll get into it.
We were expecting a slow off-season, kind of just to like a pause off-season to focus on international or focus on some other stuff to prep for next year and stuff.
Right.
But that's not what we got. We got I don't know, a big something to the fans.
Yeah. Before we get into it, any thoughts on the NFC Championship game or the AFC Championship games? Any takeaways? Any kind of Raven connections? I don't know. Like, what are your feelings in those games?
Well, I got a couple of big takeaways.
Yeah.
My one big takeaway is that I really like Tom Brady in Tampa. I don't hate Tom Brady. I find that I'm cheering for Tom Brady, and that's weird. So I think Tom Brady without Belichick out of New England, I like Tom Brady.
See, I was about to drop my hot take that I'm rooting for the Bucs in the Super Bowl. And now you kind of stole the hot take from me. Yeah, because it's not, because you're right, because Tom Brady's not with the Patriots. Like, I hated the Patriot version Tom Brady. Yeah. That's half of it. The other half was, I mean, I don't love Tom. I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but I don't like Mahomes.
I'm not going to buy a jersey, but I like Brady. He's fun.
Oh, see, I wouldn't even go as far as saying I like Brady, but I know the Chiefs are going to be good. I'm already like, the Chiefs are the new Patriots, right? And Mahomes is new Tom Brady. And so I'm already starting to hate on the Chiefs because that's going to be the team, that's going to be a thorn in our side for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of Aaron Rodgers. Like, for some reason, I like to see the Packers struggle in their own stadium. in Lambeau Field. I feel like
Yeah.
I think it's because the broadcasters and people that cover like football put so much pressure on Lambeau, and it's like a temple, and it's the Packers, and it's January, and it's Lambeau, and that's what football is designed to be. So then to see them struggle, I enjoy.
Yeah, I like underdogs too, and the Bucks were the underdogs, so you kind of root for the underdogs. And the Bills, I know a lot of Raven fans are jumping on the Bills bandwagon, which I get, but again, my mind goes immediately to, okay, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson get compared a lot. I don't want Josh Allen to beat Lamar Jackson to the Super Bowl, so because that comparison will then get taking the next level. I mean, Mahomes already has surpassed Lamar Jackson, so that's not a comparison. But I think Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson is a good comparison.
Yeah, and for that game, we said last week the Ravens are a better team than the Bills. They just had some bad luck. The Ravens would have gotten their butts kicked by the Chiefs also.
Yeah, I think so.
The Chiefs are unstoppable right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, but I'll be rooting for the Bucks. But it also has the potential for Mahomes to just run away with it.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady, they showed a stat during the game with Brady and Rodgers, games like in the playoffs or something, and they were bad numbers. I talked about before, like Lamar Jackson's numbers are bad. Everyone's numbers are bad in the playoffs because it's harder. I mean, Tom Brady threw, 2 or 3 interceptions in that game?
Right.
Like, it's just harder to play in the playoffs. But yeah, if Tom Brady throws 2 or 3 interceptions against the Chiefs, that's blowout city.
And it's really fun. Another takeaway from this prepping for the Super Bowl is it's really fun to remind Steeler fans that Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell are in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a fun little thing to point out to them.
I know, but they can just come back at you saying, well, we just signed Dwayne Haskins. So that's what they got going for them.
That's a comeback? is Dwayne Haskins supposed to be – all right. Oh, yeah, look at that AFC North. We've got Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, and who am I missing? Who's the guy the Bengals have?
The Bengals. The guy got injured.
Young guy?
Yeah, the number 1 pick from LSU. Oh, my gosh, I'm blanking his name. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, there it is.
Yeah, Burrows and Haskins. That's the AFC North. There's no way Haskins is their starting quarterback next year.
Yeah, they need to hurry up and get Deshaun Watson or something.
The only thing that could be if they're like, Ben won't leave. And we can't kick Ben out. So Haskins, you're the backup.
Yeah, well, they got that Mason Rudolph or whatever, too. That's a serious competition over there in Pittsburgh for that team.
And it's cool for the Bucks to be hosting the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah.
It sucks for their fans because of COVID. Like, you don't get the full NFL experience. The teams don't even get there till 2 days before. So, like, all the cool excitement of, like, being the host city would be really cool.
Are there really diehard Bucks fans?
There are.
Okay.
There are. I've met a few.
That's the same city that brings you the Tampa Bay Rays, so.
Well, that city, were the Rays had did they have a good season?
This past year?
Yeah. They were in the World Series this past year, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. The Rays were in the World Series. The Lightning won the Stanley Cup. So it's only fitting for the Bucks to win the Super Bowl.
It's not fair, Tampa Bay.
Can you imagine? I mean, all I want is the Orioles and the Ravens to get into the playoffs the same year.
Yeah.
Let alone this magic.
All right, but it could be, from what we're reading, let's get into it, Josh, because from what I'm reading, it could be a while before the Orioles are in the playoffs.
Well, if they do get into the playoffs, there might not be any coverage.
Yeah. Well,
So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the fire-ins or the weird defer money?
Yeah, I want to get to the bottom of this. And, like, I know as far as listeners go, we have a spectrum of listeners. So I want to kind of break it down and kind of talk about all the little bits of news.
Okay.
So let's start from the beginning. 1993, Peter Angelos purchases the Orioles.
Hold on. I think in the end, Peter Angelos comes out of this story as the good guy.
You think so?
I think his sons might be the bad guys.
See, that's a great point, Josh, because what I wanted to bring up about Peter Angelos is he was criticized all the time, not for not spending.
Right.
He was criticized for meddling with the team and not knowing what he was doing and doing like dumb moves. Most recently, playing a hand in the Chris Davis signing. But he was not known for being cheap.
Yes.
He was known for meddling.
And beyond that, what he was known to do is when the Orioles, at the end of every year, when they'd have to settle up the books, the Orioles a lot of times were in the negative because not enough fans were coming out to pay that huge salary.
Right.
So what Peter would do is he would just write a check and say, here you go. And he would personally cover that difference to make up for the negative that the Orioles were in.
Yeah. But now
So
the
now-
team is run by Lou and John Angelos, the
and
sons.
Peter's and with Peter's age and frailty right now, Peter probably doesn't even control his own money at this point.
Yeah. And
That's
what
probably all managed by his sons.
And what we're getting at, boys and girls, is we're looking at the Orioles' finances, and the Orioles are making a bunch of curious decisions recently. And what we're trying to figure out is, are these kind of frugal moves that they're making to save money now, or like, is this a bankrupt franchise and we're kind of screwed? But Josh, to that point, to go along with Lou and John, they bring in Mike Elias to kind of complicate things. Because Mike Elias' MO is kind of one of these new GMs that everyone criticizes for being concerned not just with putting a product on the field, but like doing it cheaply. Like it's been obvious that Mike Elias has no interest in paying for a team or winning right now.
Yes.
And so he's not signing free agents. He's not even trying to compete right now. And he's open about it. So he's not trying to win. So there's no incentive to really spend money at the major league level.
And you're right. He's known for that. He's known to be the guy that'll come in and manage your books as low as possible.
Yes.
Until it's time to win.
Yes, he's not Dan Duquette, where, here, let me get a guy on a 1-year deal, this guy on a 2-year deal. Like, let me make some shrewd moves to try to get to 500. Maybe, everything goes our way. We can sneak in the playoffs. No, that's not him. Yeah.
Right. He's the let's come out of nowhere and win, which is a lot harder to do now that everyone knows those tricks that were coming out of nowhere.
Right.
Now you can forecast those.
Okay, so there's that going on. That's kind of the Orioles context. And then there's this larger kind of baseball world context where, and I have it right here. Let me pull it up right here. In last year's season, it says, this is according to Fox Business News, if you trust that source.
It's just looking at math and facts and money. I think we're okay. It's not saying whether or not the vaccine works.
Right. So anyway, this is a quote from them. Trump won the election. No, I'm sorry. That's not the right quote. Here's the quote.
Go down a couple sentences.
30 MLB teams are $8.3 billion with a B dollars in debt. Here's another quote. They're expected to post between a 2.8 to 3 billion in operational losses this year, right? So bigger debt and a loss. This is combined across the team. I don't have specific data on the Orioles, but across the league, $2.8 to $3 billion in losses.
Right. And I made a comment on Twitter about something like this, and someone responded like, oh, well, you don't know their books.
You don't.
And I was like, yeah, we don't know their books, but here's what I do know. The way baseball management works is generally your ticket price, that pays the salaries of the players. Then the food and all that stuff also pays other employees at the stadium. And then advertising, TV money is where you eventually start to make some money off the team. But what I know is that no one bought a ticket to the Orioles last year.
Right. Here's a
Yet
quote.
all those players were paid.
Here's
so you lost money.
Here's a quote by Mike Elias on October 16th. So this is going back to the end of the season, October 16th. Here's a quote by Mike Elias. He said, quote, "We do a lot of planning in business in general outside of baseball. I just mean business in general. We do a lot of planning, budgeting. Baseball teams do a lot of planning, looking ahead, and all of that is totally out the window because of this event that came in and turned the world upside down. So we don't know. We can't estimate our revenue, our attendance. We can't estimate various things that we look at when we look into a player or roster or budget." So what he's saying there is not only for this past season, right? We didn't get the revenue,
right,
but we don't know in 2021 what our revenue will look like.
Which is what we're in this podcast. We're going to focus it on the baseball world, but you're right. This is a global thing. Like businesses don't know. Businesses are trying to forecast. We've got high unemployment. We've got people not shopping. We've got small businesses and restaurants closing every day. So,
but baseball, you sign guys now for what they're going to do in April and May, June and July.
Yeah.
And will there be fans? Will there be have fans? Will there be full capacity? Will the mayor of Baltimore go on a power trip and allow no fans? Like, you just don't know about these things.
Yeah, and that doesn't even. That's just COVID related stuff. When we get on the MASN side, remember we still owe what $100 million to the Nationals over MASN lawsuits that's going back and forth.
And that's so. There's a lot of context here. Then there's specifically the MASN context. Josh, I can't. Every time I read Brittany Giroli, she acts like the Nationals are getting screwed over by the Orioles hard time. And then, but I've been raised to believe that the Orioles were the ones always getting screwed for stealing our market. So I mean, I don't even know how I'm supposed to feel about this whole MASN dispute thing. And it's complicated because the Nationals are making cuts and the Orioles are making cuts. Now we're getting deep in the weeds here. But let's talk about MASN.
All right, MASN, and we'll get. We still, I mean, we're gonna stay. Let's stay on this general thing. Then we'll get to the actual facts that they fired people and that they asked arbitration deferrals. We'll get to all that.
Well, because again, what I want to know is this just kind of some budget cuts, or is this a larger kind of issue with the Orioles and not having money? And all this conversation matters in answering that question.
Here's the deal. Here's why the MASN issue and why we got to this point that we are, and what's screwed up about the MASN issue, is that when the Nationals came to D.C., everyone knew that was going to screw the Orioles out of a lot of business deals, business suite tickets, the more expensive season tickets, all those advertising, all those business relationships. We knew were going to struggle because you had lots of D.C. businesses, lots of government stuff that would come to Camden Yards for baseball.
Yes.
It's not a long drive. So we all knew that was going to hurt. Major League Baseball knew that was going to hurt. So Major League Baseball at the time came to Peter Angelos and worked out this deal where in exchange for all that's going to hurt, you get primary ownership and you get a big chunk of money out of the Nationals' revenue. And then so they did that. And everyone agreed to that. And then what happened is the Nationals started saying, you know what, this isn't fair. The Nationals went to Major League Baseball and said, no, we want the money from our own market. The Orioles shouldn't be making money off us. And Major League Baseball sided with the Nationals.
Right, and it seems like a lot of people side with the Nationals. Brittany Giroli sided with the Nationals.
Because
Why?
It's been 10, 15 years that the Nationals have been there. There's lots of people in baseball, and there's lots of younger reporters right now that don't remember the Orioles and Camden Yards of the late 90s, early 2000s, when Camden Yards was packed every night. Not because the team was great. We had a lot of losing seasons then. But because we had this huge market share.
Yeah,
and that got shrunk.
Yeah, and the Nats, for the record, the Nats are not happy with what MASN's doing with the cuts they're making on the national side. They put out a statement today, not happy about it.
Of course, they're not happy.
And I feel what always kind of rubs salt in the wounds of Oriole fans is we saw this week also them sign Brad Hand for something like $11 million a reliever. Before that, they signed Kyle Schwarber. Right, and a couple years ago they signed Max Scherzer, and last year they signed Corbin. So they keep on making
a great owner.
That great owner who, even despite Peter Angelos screwing the Nats out of a ton of money, they continue to spend a ton of money.
But I think it's also we got to remember and back up to what I was saying about the attendance pays the players. The TV money is just extra money. The TV money in the big picture, we like to think like the TV money is this huge money. It is to you or I. To the baseball team, it's not. The attendance is where most of the money comes from.
Oh, and hundreds of million dollars along with attendance on top of attendance prices is, beer. Every time they sell a beer, they make $100 off a single beer or something. Like, it's insane. So
I don't know if the math's quite that way, but yeah. So you got to remember that
pretty close.
The Nats being screwed out of some baseball money isn't stopping them from spending money because they have the attendance. They have the suites sold. They have the businesses. They have all of that the Orioles do not have right now.
Right.
So it stings. It hurts. I also think as Oriole fans, we've never been happy with MASN. Since MASN came to be, we've always had issues with MASN.
We've always heard HTS. Yeah, bring that back.
HTS was fine. It was simple. It was one channel. The Orioles were on it. From the start, they made MASN and MASN 2.
Is this, and the games would alternate, right? Is this on MASN 1? Is this on MASN 2?
Here we are 15 years later. The games still alternate back and forth. But
No.
remember, for those first 5 years, not every cable network had MASN 2. So you might only get every other game. You'd only get the MASN 1 games.
Right.
And then for a while we had MASN 1 was in HD, MASN 2 was not in HD. We've never been happy with the MASN broadcast. It makes no sense.
And
I still cannot get someone to explain to me. I've been arguing this for 5 years now. Why we don't have MASN DC, MASN Baltimore, and be done with it.
well, and then
They
there's
won't explain.
also, in addition to that, there's the complicating factor of MASN being owned by the Orioles, right? Because then you have
Yes.
not only conflict of interest, because I checked Rock's blog before coming on here, because I always do.
Who works for MASN.
That's where I get my Orioles news.
Yeah, the main. Yeah.
Not a word about all this nonsense that's been happening with MASN. Not a word. And so, which is understandable, because you're not going to badmouth the person you work for.
Right.
But it's a conflict of interest. And when when your main reporter works essentially for the Orioles.
But that's all sports, and all teams are doing that right now. The Ravens have like 3 reporters that work for the Ravens. They have a Raven blog. They've got a
Fine,
Raven
Josh, but
podcast.
who broke the news about the all these firings with the massive firings?
I believe Dan Connolly.
Yeah, it was The Athletic. And
The Athletic.
I don't remember if it was Dan Connolly or someone else, but it was The Athletic. And
it's
the
why I
Athletic
pay
broke
for-
their story about the arbitration news too, which we'll get to
Right.
in a second. The Athletic broke it.
I know. That's why I pay for The Athletic, because
As you
it's good
should.
writing, and they are actually like unbiased reporting about the Orioles.
Right. So, is that the context? Can we talk about the news now? What happened? So you have the
Yeah,
owner
so, all right.
context.
So-
you have
so
the
we've all-
COVID
all right.
context. You have the MASN dispute context.
So
now
we've-
we can get to
yeah.
the news.
Let's see. COVID, the Angelos family. No one likes MASN ever.
Right.
And let's get to the actual news.
Yeah. And so there's a couple parts here. The first part is that was first announced. They let go a bunch of announcers.
Yeah. Do you have the list?
I don't. Do you?
No, but I can pull it up.
Gary Thorne, Mike Bordick. They got
Jim Hunter.
Jim Hunter. They got rid of the pregame and postgame show with Tom Davis.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that later in the show if we've got a solution.
Yeah.
But
Dave Johnson, one of my favorite. Get rid of him. It's a long list.
Rick Dempsey.
Oh, is Rick
Brian
Dempsey
Roberts.
gone too?
They announced today Rick Dempsey and Brian Roberts will still be around for community relations.
Okay. So still under the team, but not okay.
Yep.
And a lot of people are critical that they retained Scott Garceau. Maybe we can get to that later. But the big news is Gary Thorne and all these kind of long tenured Oriole announcers. I mean, Mike Bordick. These are guys.
Jim
Tom
Hunter
Davis. These are guys who are like entrenched in kind of Baltimore and Oriole culture.
Jim Hunter's been here for 24 years.
Yeah. How long has Tom Davis has been here? Tom Davis has been covering the Orioles. I don't know. My entire existence.
Yeah.
And you have like former players like Mike Bordick and Dave Johnson. All let go. All let go.
Yep.
And these are related to also cuts happening with the Nats. There's also cuts, I guess, at the website. This seems across the board. There's a larger movement of cuts here involving MASN, which seems like budgetary related. I don't know if it's specifically COVID related or just general budget related.
It's 100% budget related. Whether or not COVID adds to all of that, and the uncertainty of COVID adds to all that.
Josh,
it's all budget.
I wonder though if same thing would have happened without COVID, because I say that because what happened last year pre-COVID, they brought in a whole slew of guys. Right, that was pre-COVID. They brought in Kevin Brown. They brought up Jeff Arnold.
Yes, they may have been preparing for this by saying, "Hey, these MASN salaries are getting out of control. Let's grab some young guys."
And we joke that they have like 50 announcers, right? We would make that joke, and maybe
So
it was preparing to kind of get them a year under their belt and then make the cut.
Right, like last year we had like 20 guys.
Right.
They've narrowed it down to 8 people.
Which actually kind of makes more sense to have 8 as opposed to, like, you don't need 20.
Except that the pregame and postgame shows are gone, and this is 8 rotating people.
Right. I guess what I meant is
like
you don't need a new baseball. You don't need a new commentator every night on TV or the radio. I listen to Joe Angel every night for how many years? You don't need a different guy every night. And I like I would rather have Kevin Brown every night than have a new guy every night.
I agree with that. I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they're going to mix it up again.
No, Kevin Brown is the radio guy. Scott Garceau is the TV guy. It's Scott Garceau, I think, and I forget who. But they said it's going to be a regular routine.
Right. Okay, so that puts Kevin Brown and Jeff Arnold on the radio.
Yes, and Scott
Garceau
and Ben McDonald.
I like both those guys.
Yeah.
Scott Garceau, Ben McDonald on the TV.
Yeah.
I like those guys. That's fine.
I know. Everyone hates Scott Garceau. Whatever.
I don't know. He's a good guy. He's been good to us. I'm fine with him.
Yeah, I have no issue with Scott Garceau either.
Then you got this weird mix of, Jim Palmer's in TV also. He's going to be in and out.
Yes, Jim Palmer will be there as well. Again, that's kind of last year. It's kind of unknown for this year, right? What Jim Palmer.
And then you've got these weird sideline reporters.
Yes.
That are going to they list them as TV and radio.
Melanie Newman, is there?
Melanie Newman, Brett Hollander, and Rob Long.
Yeah. Oh, Rob Long. Yeah. So Rob Long is still there. That's interesting because he was doing some of the pregame stuff last year.
Right. And they were saying, so they got rid of the postgame and the pregame show. And when we say they got rid of it, it means like the 30-minute studio show before and after.
Right.
So it sounds like what they're going to do instead is a little 5-minute close-in comments, which is what they
opening
used
comments
to do,
by the announcers.
And then hand it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's the chance that Brett Hollander or Melanie Newman is going to, from the field, talk to the player, and then cameras cut off, we go home.
Yeah. And if sticking with the news here.
Yeah.
If that was all the news that was announced, you would say, okay, fine. Whatever. Like Masson, they're making cuts to Masson. Maybe you could have seen this coming a year ago with all the new blood influx. Yeah. Maybe they're trying to get rid of these large payrolls that have been inflated over the years.
Right. Trying to get a new generation of Oriole fans.
Yeah.
All that. We can accept all that. Let's stay on Masson real quick. Because Masson tried to clean up some of their mess today.
Okay.
And you saw their announcement today. Did you? No?
Yeah, about the app.
Okay. Yeah. Masson is to launch
a thing on the phone, an application on your phone. You download it.
Streaming.
Yeah.
So Masson has announced plans to launch its own dedicated sports media app. It's not just for your phone. It's also for your Roku. So you'll be able to watch on your TV.
I can watch on my Fire Stick?
No. You're going to have to get a Roku, it sounds like.
Oh, what's wrong with the Fire Stick? They don't like Amazon?
I don't like Amazon. I've got lots of problems with the Fire Stick.
It's okay. I can't watch it anyway because for other reasons, which I'm sure you're going to get to.
But then part 2,
here you go.
Where everyone got irritated, is you have to
just stop reading. Read part 1 and then log off. Don't read part 2 because that ruins it.
You have to log in with a TV provider login. No big deal for you. You can just use Dad's login and you'll be fine.
And he always changes his password now. I can't figure it out.
Oh, it's so screwed up. That's why I use the one from the beach house because no one knows it.
Yeah.
So you could use that one. But so the whole thing that people want is to be – lots of people have switched to you don't have cable. Well, you do. You steal my cable. You and I share a YouTube Live account.
Sure,
now.
yes.
Is that what it's called, YouTube Live? YouTube TV?
YouTube TV, yeah, YouTube TV.
YouTube TV, which is awesome. I really like YouTube TV. I've been very impressed with it.
Yeah, I have too.
But if I have that as my cable provider, I can't get Masson.
Right.
If I'm in Baltimore. I have to have Comcast or DirecTV or Verizon, whoever they have deals with in that area.
Right.
So, again, they've gone and said, all right, we're going to fix this thing, but we're going to do it in our own weird way.
Yeah.
When what they could have done is just said, hey, we now allow in-market streaming, go to the MLB app like everyone out of state does, and it all works fine. There's no need to have a Masson app. I use the MLB.TV app to watch every single Oriole game. That's how you should be doing it. This Masson app is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing standing in the way is a little guy I like to call Comcast, right? And yeah, Comcast wants you to have Comcast to watch the Oriole games, and if that's a lot. I mean, for a while, I had cable just to watch Oriole games, and I wanted nothing else. And eventually, I got rid of it.
Do you remember when
there are people are holding on just for the Oriole games?
Yeah, and that's how it's always been. And remember when we were kids, HTS you had to pay extra for.
Right.
So we couldn't do it, so we'd have to change the track in to get all the lines to go away so that we could see it in black and white.
Yeah, people think this finding illegal ways to watch games is new. No, we've been doing this for a long time now, guys.
We had boys and girls way before Reddit.
Yes.
So we would get in there and steal the little cable and watch Ben McDonald, Mike Mussina in black and white with the radio going. Worked perfectly fine. These cable deals are a huge issue, and they're not. That's what we don't understand. My comment this weekend was, with all these things the Orioles are releasing and firing all these Masson employees, now would be a great time for someone like Amazon or Apple or one of the YouTube Live, one of these streaming companies to come in and say, hey, Orioles, we'll buy all the rights. We'll buy your TV rights from you. Just give it to us. Let us do it properly and get Masson. Stop trying to do it yourself, Orioles. You can't run you've shown you can't run a team on your own. You can't run a TV network apparently on your own. It's time to hand off those rights and sell the Oriole rights. There's lots of internet companies that'll jump at the possibility because they want to eventually own all the teams.
Yeah, and we see this movement, I think, happening more with the NFL, where some weeks, I don't know exactly how it works, but you can watch games on Fox or on Prime or like on all these different locations.
And there's rumors that like DirecTV, the NFL ticket, their contract's expiring soon. And there's always been rumors that one of these big tech companies is going to come in and buy that package.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
they all won in sports.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm at the point now, I'm so sick of Masson, where I'm about to like sell my car, sell my house, sell my George Foreman grill, and maybe try to pursue buying the rights to the Orioles on my own and
you know,
just to do it myself.
How about that person that won like $500 million out in Allegheny County?
Yeah.
Can someone put me in contact with him? I got a proposal.
Yeah.
You go buy Masson. You can't afford the Orioles. Let's buy the Orioles rights.
Yeah, I'll contribute a couple bucks to that cause.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that's when we talk about Masson and how we all hate Masson, it doesn't drive us all crazy that they don't broadcast anything during the day. It's like an infomercial, World Series of Poker, and then the Oriole game that night.
Yeah.
They don't do. They also scratched like almost all their spring training coverage this year.
That's the spring training too. I don't know why they're not covering. I would watch DL Hall just throw to a catcher during spring training workouts. I would watch. I would sit and watch it for an hour. I would. I'm not watching the World Series of Poker on.
Why don't they have cameras at spring training? They can use the security cameras and have it just auto-rotate through the cameras.
I would watch that more than
it.
I would watch.
One camera behind home plate, just as they do scrimmages, we'll all watch it.
Yeah.
We don't need an announcer.
No, we don't. It boggles my mind.
I don't understand. And they're like, what? No one watch. You have a whole TV network, and all you do is put on the Oriole games and nothing else on it. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And you have two networks.
Yeah.
You don't know how to manage you don't know how to manage a TV network. Pass it on to someone else.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be, if there were not a lot of spring training games last year, there's going to be less this year. I think it's going in that direction.
What do you think the chances are that this streaming Masson app is out before opening day?
I think it's a good chance. Now, what are the chances it's out and it's working and people like it? I think that's less of a chance.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be out by opening day because I don't think they had plans to do this.
Oh, you think this was a total PR move?
I think this was a total PR move.
There's some nerd in the back in the tech room saying, "What? Why'd you announce that?"
I think that they said, "Oh, we really upset everyone. How can we appease them? Oh, they all complain that they can't watch Masson on their phones. Let's fix that."
And poor Joe in the back room, they tell Joe, "Hey, we need this app out."
Because I'm pretty sure I remember reading somewhere at some point that other teams have worked out in-market streaming through the MLB app.
Oh, really?
I thought I saw that last year. I remember complaining about the Orioles about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a new thing on this podcast. No. We have touched this.
We've complained about Masson many times.
Yeah.
So, in fact, part of what I enjoyed down here in Florida is that I don't have to watch Masson. I just turn on the MLB app and get the broadcast.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It makes me want to move.
I don't get the World Series of Poker during a rain delay. Instead, I get just a static image that says rain delay. We'll be back, which is way better than the World Series of Poker.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, but that's Masson. Masson sucks. It still sucks. They cut a bunch of people. Now the weird thing that the Orioles did that also says what's going on with your money.
Okay, so a little more context here. This is, again, the Baltimore Sun from October 16th.
Yep.
Here's a quote, not by anybody, a quote from the article. It says, the Orioles offseason so far on and off the field has reflected that this budget cuts. They moved on from pitching coach Doug Brokaw and third base coach Jose Flores shortly after the season ended. And people speculated with this is end quote. And people speculated with those moves that maybe getting rid of Doug Brokaw was a budget reason, and they brought in, the guy overseeing all the pitching to be the pitching coach as well. And then the article kind of continues, and Wednesday's news of a dozen layoffs and furloughs across the business side of the organization, end quote. So in October, they laid off a dozen people. They fired the pitching coach, the third base coach, presumably to bring in people who are also cheaper. And people speculated, is this baseball related, but also is this financially related?
Right. But we weren't too worried about it in October because we thought, it might just be a change in the guard.
Right.
Bring in Brandon Hyde's guys.
Right. But all that to say, this was, and then, okay, so just more context. And maybe this meant nothing. Again, maybe these are all just baseball moves. But they don't offer a contract to Renato Nunez, which I questioned. They didn't offer a contract to Hanser Alberto. Both these guys are in the arbitration years, so they'd be making, I don't know, a couple million bucks. They didn't offer them contracts. They just let them walk. They trade Jose Iglesias. They got his, I think it was $2.5 million pickup option, and then they immediately traded him for a small return, which we all thought was a little bit kind of odd, right? Because you wanted that good shortstop up the middle to solidify the defense with young pitchers, and we had no one. I mean, Richie Martin is our only other shortstop. He's coming off an injury, and you don't know what you have in him. So it was a little bit odd. But you say, okay, maybe like Jose Iglesias was not part of our 2023 World Series plan. So fine, you trade Jose Iglesias. Okay,
right.
And then we get to, and then
Martin.
And that kind of brings us up to date to what they did or tried to do with Santander and Trey Mancini.
Yeah.
Which Dan O'Connelly said, no other team has ever tried to do something like this before.
Yeah. So again, this story was broken by The Athletic.
Of course.
That they tried to defer during the arbitration hearings for both Trey Mancini and Anthony Santander. They tried to defer half their salary.
25%.
25% to the next year. And from my favorite part of the Dan Connolly article is a veteran of arbitration dealers from the owner's side simply said, wow, just wow, because no one has ever done this before.
So essentially what they're trying to do is they owe them their arbitration money, and they're saying 25% of this, can we just wait and pay it to you next year?
Right. Which isn't a whole lot of money. You're talking a few million.
We're talking combined. Both those players combined.
4.5, right?
$1.5 million.
All right, $1.5 million.
So what do you do? What financial situation do you have to be in to try to save $1.5 million? It's a lot to us, but to a baseball team, it's nothing.
No.
So
maybe they said, hey, Trey, Anthony, let us defer this one half, or we're going to fire half of Masson.
But Josh, you are doing something no other team has ever done before, and you are also risking upsetting your players by not paying them the money that's due to them, all for $1.5 million. I don't think you do that for no reason. You do that because you need that $1.5 million, right?
And yes, and here's the weird. And you're exactly right with those relationships. When you have a friend, and that you owe that guy some money, and you cheap out on it, or if that friend doesn't pay you back at all right away, or
I'll give it back. I'll give it back to you next year.
Yeah. You don't trust him to lend him money again.
Right.
So don't you think that when it's time for an extension for a real money, put your career in Baltimore contract for Trey or Anthony Santander, they're going to remember this stupid little thing?
Yeah.
That you were petty over.
You're trying to pinch a penny.
$1.5 million?
Yeah.
All because you're,
and agents talk, and agents know all the other agents, right? And the agents are talking they're laughing about the Orioles right now, about the Orioles trying to save this $1.5 million on an arbitration salary deferral.
Right. But put this into perspective. The opening day roster for the Orioles is projected to be $60 million. $38 million of that goes to Chris Davis and Alex Cobb.
2 players, yep.
So you're talking really what's that? $22 million for the rest of your team.
Yeah.
Then in that case, 1.5 is a big percentage of that.
Well, and here's
But you're really trying to be cheap, and then it's gone to the next level with news after this that the Orioles might be looking into trading Anthony Santander.
Well, yeah, and there's a couple things here because I think this is a fascinating conversation about whether to trade Santander, which I would be all on board with, but I think we need to talk about it for a second. The other question is, though, and someone mentioned this in an article, here's like a warning sign. You know the Orioles are strapped for cash. If they trade Santander and the return is nothing, then you know they're strapped for cash. The other way you know they're strapped for cash is if you see this, guys, we're screwed. If you see this, we're screwed. If they package Santander and Cobb in any deal, we are so screwed.
Good point, because Davis you can't package.
You can't package.
You could package Cobb.
And tell someone, take on the salary, and you can have Santander, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And you might be able to get a team to jump at that.
And that's...
But that would be total crap, right? That would be getting rid of Santander for nothing as to dump Cobb's salary. That's run for the hills. We're screwed.
All right, let's come back to whether or not we should trade Santander, because I want to have that conversation, but not about money.
Okay.
Let's finish out the money conversation first. All of this stuff of the Orioles being cheap, trying to get payroll down, try to get Matson down, you can't help but ask, are they trying to sell the team? Are they setting up to sell the team? I'm not saying the team's moving to Nashville.
Right.
The team's going to stay in Baltimore.
But the question is, like,
Angelo's family getting ready to sell them.
Right. Are Lou and John, is their attitude like we have no interest in dumping more money into this team? Because you can say what the team's worth, right? Because the team is worth a certain amount. But there's also like how much you make every year and how much you lose every year. And last year, I'm certain the Orioles lost money. I'm certain the Angelos has lost money last year.
I think every baseball team lost money.
Right, because I shared the billions of dollars that they lost across the league.
Yes, exactly. And that's going to have this year. We could go for 2 hours talking money in baseball. We might have to push it to next week because this COVID year is really setting up to affect the CBA negotiations for next year.
Right.
And money in baseball.
Right, but
let's save that for next.
But fans don't always get that. The Angelos could be worth $1 billion. Like this organization could be worth whatever it is, $750 million. But you still could have lost, $50 million or $100 million last year. Like both those things can be true.
Yeah, Netflix I don't think's made $1 yet. They still have a huge. If they want to sell, they're still worth billions.
Right. Right. So you're right. If the Angelos have no money. I don't know. I don't know how John and Lou, I don't know.
Remember, John's comment last year was the Orioles will be in Baltimore as long as Fort McHenry. He didn't say that Angelo's family will own the Orioles as long as Fort McHenry's
right.
here. And he said the Orioles will be in Baltimore, which is pretty clear. The Orioles, even if a new owner came in, the Orioles are not going to Nashville.
No, they're staying in Baltimore.
Baseball will not allow that.
Yeah, they're staying in Baltimore.
They'll do an expansion team before that.
Yes, they're staying in Baltimore. But like the Orioles, we know Peter Angelos, I don't think would sell the team, but we talked about it. Peter Angelos is getting old. The team is now run by Lou and John. I don't know how Lou and John feel about owning the Orioles. I don't know.
They're clearly not worried about winning before Pops dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not the priority. We were hoping that would be the priority. It looked like that might have been a push during the Manny and Adam Jones years.
Yeah, and they had a small window there, and it didn't work out.
Yes. But right now, that's not the push.
Yeah, I mean, and the other side of the argument, sticking with money, the Orioles did. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. The Orioles spent more than they ever have in the history of their franchise in international signings.
Yeah.
So
15 million, 17 million, something like that.
Something like that. Like they spent all their international signing pool money that they were allotted.
Right.
So they weren't cheap there.
Well,
that's encouraging news.
Yeah, and if you build a farm system, even if you're going to sell the team, if it looks like your team's going to be good in the future, your team is worth more when you go to sell it.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because it's just like a GM. If the Angelos family decides next year, they won't do it this year because COVID numbers are down and all, so they'll want to do it next year when it bounces back to get most value or something. But if they decided to sell the team and then Steve Bisciotti comes in, buys the team, and then 2 years later they win the World Series, everyone will credit Steve Bisciotti, even though the Angelos family built the farm system, set everything in motion in this direction. It's like your GM, then you fire the GM, and then you start winning. It's the Andy McPhail.
Yeah, and you make more money when you win, of course, as an owner.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it works, but I'm sure just Mike Elias being here and what Mike Elias has already done has increased the value of the Orioles, right? Because
we have a process, and a plan.
Yeah, and people have bought in across the league. Like people look at the Orioles and say, okay, like we're moving up the farm system rankings. Yeah, like what we're doing is working.
All right. Is it telling that the Orioles have not jumped on the bandwagon of like a trust the process theme or trust the process T-shirt? Like we jumped on that right away. Isn't it weird that the Orioles haven't tried to market that?
Yeah, I'm kind of glad though they did. I mean, just look at the Sixers. This kind of backfired. Never really worked out. But
I get it. And they tried real early with the walk with Elias, but they really could have blown that up and done a whole thing.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah, no, I don't need catchy slogans. I'm okay. I'm okay with my caution.
No, I don't need it either. I just want the World Series. I'm just surprised that they didn't try to make some money off of this.
So, a couple warning signs for short with money. We traded one, like trade Santander.
You mean besides the ones we've talked about for the past 40 minutes.
We're short with money. Box them together with Cobb. We're absolutely dead broke. The other sign, when we traded Jose Iglesias, Mike Elias said, we're looking to bring in another veteran shortstop on a short-term deal. Like,
yes,
it's clear like they were looking to like they traded Jose Iglesias and got a prospect back. It was clear that Mike Elias was looking to do the same thing. Let me sign another guy to a 1 or 2 year deal and swap him back. If the Orioles do not sign a shortstop, if they do not sign a shortstop at all, that was not part of the original plan going into the offseason. Another sign they're short of money. So pay attention if they sign a short. It's still early.
Okay.
You got a bunch of big names still out there, Didi Gregorius or whatever. And it doesn't have to be a big name either. But I'm just saying, like even like a small veteran name, if we don't sign a shortstop to like $1 million, we're short of cash.
It's going to be a new little short segment every week, the State of the Franchise segment, where we say, all right, in the past week the Orioles did this. Is that raise or lower their value?
Yeah, yeah. Is this
or outlook?
Is this what does this mean?
I think that's a good idea.
Well, the Orioles have at this point lost the benefit of the doubt. So now I am going to look at everything through this kind of critical financial lens to see what it says about them.
Oh, yeah. Every move they make is, are you trying to sell the team? Are you trying to save money over win?
Well, and the other thing about it is, Josh, and Brittany Giroli mentioned this, and she said kind of the worst thing about the mass and layoffs on the Nats and the Orioles side was like there was no heads up given, and it's just happening a couple months for the season.
But that's the Orioles way. We've heard that many times from coaches and players.
But is this the Orioles way, or is this like poor planning? Like, are they realizing now, we have less money than we thought we would have?
Right. Like,
or was this always in the works?
I think maybe I can see that argument, but I can also respond and go back with, sorry, Jim Hunter, Gary Thorne, if you guys did not see the writing on the wall when we hired 25 employees last year.
When we brought up Jeff Arnold and Kevin Brown and Brett Hollander, younger guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Then that's also on you.
Yeah. I don't know how they chose Gary Thorne over Scott Garceau. I don't really get that one.
Yeah. I don't know.
Scott Garceau isn't new blood. I love Scott Garceau.
No.
He's not new blood, though, compared to.
No, he's not. He's like he's the veteran old guy to try to lead these people.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's always said good things about the Orioles. I guess Angelos is like him.
Yeah,
I mean, they make those. And I guarantee Scott Garceau's a radio guy. Scott Garceau was way cheaper than Gary Thorne.
Oh, I have no doubt he's cheaper. And
he's a local guy.
Yeah, local celebrity. People know the name. Sure.
Yep. So he's probably the biggest name you could get for the lowest budget.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about money.
All right. Do we want to talk about Santander trade, or do we want to get to next week? How are you feeling here?
I mean, well, I think it has to do with this story, and who knows, he might be traded by next week.
All right.
So I think, we should talk about it.
Because I think it's really complicated, to be honest.
I agree. I think I like Anthony Santander. I think his sample size of being great was so small that trading him right now could be trading him way on the upside. And I also think, as much as I would like him to lead this outfield, we have a lot of outfield prospects that could come up and field this outfield.
Right.
So I don't mind trading him.
Yes, I mean in 2023, my right fielder is Kerstedt anyway. It's not Santander. Not to mention we got Yusniel Diaz. Not to mention we got McKenna. All these guys having made their appearance in the outfield to go in there with DJ Stewart, Ryan Mountcastle, Trey Mancini fit in that outfield somewhere. We got a ton of outfielders. Yes,
right. So as much as I like Anthony Santander, right now, if you're going to trade someone, you're not trading Trey Mancini.
No.
You're probably considering trading Trey Mancini, but it's not a good time to trade him just coming off the cancer.
It's a bad look.
So
bad optics. I don't know if the Orioles, I guess, don't care about optics, but it's bad optics.
I don't think it's optics. I think that's where you're like, let him bounce back, and then you can trade him.
Who do you think what team would rather have right now, Trey Mancini or Anthony Santander?
I read an article this morning about the Atlanta Braves wanting to go after Trey Mancini.
Yeah, fit right next to. Is Nick Markakis coming back? Did he retire? Is he coming back for one more year?
I don't know. Hopefully he's coming back.
Yeah,
I love Nick Markakis.
Me too. But Josh, I agree with most what you said. The only part I disagree with, you said small sample size, which is correct. So I think if you look at Zip's projections, he's projected to get a 1.9 WAR this year. 1.9 WAR this year, which will put him in 2019, last full season, right around Hanser Alberto. Like not great, like a good but not great.
So
I think teams look at Anthony Santander at his full 2019 season, not at his 2020 small sample size. And so the return for the 2019 Santander is not that strong.
Right.
Unless you assume, but again, the 2020 season ended with what? Injury. So you don't even know if he can stay healthy. You don't know if it was just, I mean, what was it, like 30 games?
Yeah. It was half of a shortened season, but he was your Orioles MVP.
Yes. So I think it would make more sense if Miami wants to assume that they're trading for 2020 Santander and they're willing to give you the package of 2020 Santander, then fine, you pull that trigger. But I personally, I would say I believe in Santander. I think he's young. He's 26. I don't think last year was like a fluke. I think he can build off that. So give me another good year of Santander. Let me show the baseball that Santander is legit, and then trade him.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I believe last year is part of him growing up and growing into this because he's a young guy still. He was a Rule 5 guy.
Yep.
So I think he's growing in, turning into this guy. But I would not. So I would be surprised if they traded him now because you would think it would be a down time to trade him, unless you do a package with Alex Cobb.
That's a disaster, though. I mean, Santander is. I mean, he's a good outfielder, right? He's a good outfielder.
Yes.
If he plays like he did last year for a whole season, he's going to hit 40 home runs and be one, and be one of the best players on your team, be one of the best players in baseball. If he can do that for an entire season.
Right.
He's also, though, like an average to subpar outfielder. He's a below average base runner. Just look at the metrics. And so you're counting him for all that offense.
I know. But
if he doesn't produce offensively, I mean, that's it for him. And you have guys coming. Yusniel Diaz, Kerstedt, DJ Stewart. You'd think one of these guys could take that spot.
And you got to remember, we just saw the Orioles try to be all shady about $1.5 million. He's only up for probably $2.5 million.
Right.
So they could trade him to save that money.
Well, he's the only guy that they didn't sign a deal with yet.
Yeah, and he's projected to be between 1.7 and 3 million.
Okay.
So he's probably going to end up with two something.
Right.
And teams are interested in him because he's 26 years old. He's developing.
Oh, and he's with the team till I don't know what his free agent date is, like 2025, I think. So he's going to be. What's that?
2024. So you own this kid.
Yeah, I actually think it's a 2025. I think he's a Super 2 guy, so he gets an extra year.
I've got MLB trade rumors up right in front of me. It's after 2024.
Okay. So that's and this year he's relatively cheap, and next year relatively cheap, and so and you get this guy for a while.
So he might be, but also if we don't trade him now, this guy is designed to be your all-star break trade.
Yep, and then you slide Yusniel Diaz right in there to that spot.
Yep,
you take Yusniel Diaz in AAA, and then you slide him right there at the all-star break when you trade Santander. Yeah, if Santander has a great first half, there's a good chance he's traded.
Yeah, because there's no one else on this team worth trading. Unless you're going to trade Trey.
Right, unless you have John Means, Trey Mancini.
Right.
But I don't think – I think there's reasons you don't want to trade Trey Mancini. And I think there's also, like, you need starters. I think they're not going to get rid of John Means.
No, especially John Means struggled for the first half this past season, but it was a weird season, and that he closed the season out really strong.
Yeah, and it's not like you have – like Santander, you have guys waiting in the wings to take his spot immediately.
Right.
John Means leaves. He's being replaced by a Tommy Malone signing or something while you wait for these young players. Yeah, Tom Eshelman's going to take his spot.
Yeah. You see Brandon Klein retired this week?
Yeah, I did.
After getting his debut last year?
I did. That was surprising.
Yeah, surprising. But again, he was one of those guys that was kind of in the minors a long time.
He's 29 years old.
Yep. So decided to go and get a career where he could spend more time with his family.
Yeah, good for him. I have a ton of respect for people who make decisions like that.
Yeah, totally. And then he made it to the. What's amazing is he made it to the majors last year, so he was on the upswing.
Yeah.
So it's not like he walked away like I suck, I can't make it.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean, he was a free agent, so he could have been signed by anybody.
Right.
But he said like it wasn't an issue of not having offers. Like it was an issue of just him not wanting to play anymore. Yeah.
It was an issue of we take for granted because we would all give up everything to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
But we
including our families.
Well, that's the thing. We do give up the fact that all baseball season they're away from their family.
Josh, if you could leave your family, if you had to leave them,
what family? What family? I'm gone. Don't know what the other part of that is, but yeah. To make $30 million and strike out every other at bat, sure.
Yeah. Well, he's not Chris Davis. That's why if Brandon Klein was making $30 million, I don't think he would leave his family either.
If you put me in AAA with a shot to make the majors, a legit shot to make the majors, I'll leave my family. Yes.
Yeah, I would leave my family too.
But he's done that. He's been through that.
Right, he's been at that grind.
Respect the guy.
Yeah, he's been doing the grind for 7 years or something now? Like he's been doing that grind for years now.
At least.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
So yeah, and it's got to be a hard decision, but you know how it goes. Whenever you make those decisions and you can be comfortable and confident with you made the right decision, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So congrats on Brandon Klein.
Yeah. And again, I respect. Like it's like those football players who retire at 26 or something. Like ton of respect for those guys.
Yeah,
you just walk away.
Dominique Foxworth.
Yes,
he had that knee injury in Baltimore, and then that was the same time that I knew him pretty well. So he had a limp and was walking around, and he was like, oh, "Man, if I get injured again, I'm going to have this limp for the rest of my life." So he stepped away because his kids were babies then, and he wanted to be there for the kids.
Yeah,
and that's awesome. If you can do that, we'd all respect that and love that.
Because a lot of players, and probably us, would just, like, playing the NFL, they would just keep playing. Like, break both my legs, and keep on playing.
We're 8 years into this podcast. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Yet we still keep trying.
Yeah.
But, it's something when you're working really hard for that. So, yeah.
All right.
So I did.
Any other notes you want to get into here?
I did want to say that since Masson's canceling all the post-game shows, we're working on putting together a post-game show for the listeners, for podcast fans, for everyone else.
There's not a hole. Josh recognized the hole, and Josh just zoomed right in that hole. Josh loves to have a hole to fill.
Yeah, I saw that hole. Yeah. I had the idea. Remember, about 7 years ago, we would do our own post-game shows.
Yeah.
For Baltimore Sports Report, but we were then competing with Masson. So
yep.
I saw this big opening where there's a big hole, and we want to be competing with Masson.
Is it going to be professional, Josh?
It's going to be as professional as this.
All right.
It's going to look good. It's going to be video. It's going to be It's going to be more hosts rotating than Masson. We're going to try to rotate. It's going to be at least 2 people.
Do you expect layoffs in the near future?
No. In fact, I'm still recruiting hosts. but if you listen, basically, I put out a little comment like, "Hey, I want to do this. Who's on board?" And I believe every Orioles podcaster has reached out to me.
Yeah, every Orioles person on Twitter, I think.
Yeah, I was not expecting all the feedback that I got, but I got the ball rolling. I believe it's going to be called Birdland Tonight.
Well, someone's got to do those West Coast 10 o'clock games.
I've got that. Andrew Stecca has already signed up for the West Coast games.
Oh, yeah, living on the West Coast. Good for him.
I think you and I will do a bunch of them. I think we are going to start it off in probably beginning of March with like a once-a-week show to build up once or twice a week so we can get all the technical stuff worked out and test broadcast.
Is this pregame, postgame, or just postgame?
It's just going to be postgame.
Okay.
It's just going to be postgame. You're going to be able to turn on your laptop or phone or whatever, however, your iPad and watch it. Maybe we can get on that Masson app. If Masson can make an app, we can make an app, right? So right after the game, turn off the TV, turn us on, and we're going to talk at least probably 30 minutes after every game. We'll
Video?
be talking video, yeah.
All right.
It's going to be at least 2 hosts every
I
night.
have to work on my background.
Breaking down the game and talking about other stuff. Yeah, you don't think people like the little Harry Potter door behind you and the stairs?
Yeah, I know. If Harry Potter walks out here right now, that'd be awkward.
I know. I don't like my background either. Might put this episode up as a video. Yeah.
Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, I know. Because we're starting to test things. So we'll be doing a bunch of testing in February and go to live with this in March. And I think it's going to be called Birdland Tonight because my company's Birdland Sports. So it's a real easy. Just slide it into that LLC.
Yep, just fill in that hole.
Yep, just fill in the hole.
Yeah.
So look for announcements coming soon and look for some stuff in March as we start to go live with this stuff. But for now, you should go on over to both Twitter and Facebook and like Birdland Sports. You get to see the picture of my new mascot that looks like Burt Rohde as a bird. And then you can also just like those pages because that's where some info about Birdland Tonight is going to come out soon.
Sweet.
So, but I think that covers the Orioles news this week. The Orioles are cheap. Masson sucks.
That's all right because we will fill your hole.
Podcasters have to fill it in. We're going to fill your hole.
There you go.
You're really trying to make me make this episode called Fill Your Hole, right?
No, please don't. Please don't. I regret the whole thing. I take it all back. All right. Well, yeah. So we'll come back next week, where I'm gonna read everything the Orioles do now. Like they are under a microscope for me.
Yeah.
I am totally hooked. I'm reading every article I find, every quote I can
some
find.
Name suggestions
I'm
for
all
this
over it.
segment.
What's that?
We need people to give us some name suggestions for this segment.
Oh, for this segment where we look at how cheap the Orioles are.
It's like the Jim Cramer report. What's Jim Cramer's show called? And we've done the Jim Cramer segment before with the buy, sell.
Mad Money.
But we need something like we need like a Mad Money segment. I don't want to do buy and sell. We save that for other things.
Yeah.
But we need like, is the market up or like a bull or bear type thing?
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, the music's been playing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, follow us on Facebook. You follow Birdland, but you also follow me on Twitter if you don't. At Section 336. I tweeted like 2 or 3 times this week, guys. All right, so get on board. You can also.
Yeah, your tweets are normally to make fun of me.
That was only one tweet. I've said 5 tweets the past 2 weeks. One of them was about you.
Okay. All right. That's you know what? Masson said the same thing. We have all these employees. We only fired 1% of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. All right, fine. I'll tweet more unrelated to you. Okay. No, but I hate tweeting. Things are more complex than that. This whole conversation took us an hour to understand what was going on with the Orioles. And you want me to put this in a 140-character tweet? Get out of here with that.
No, I think that's why we're going to have some cool things like this in the future where we can kind of be more interactive.
Yeah. Because there's context here. There's history. There's all this nonsense.
All right.
Oh, yeah. But you can follow me on Twitter at Section 336. You can follow Josh on Twitter.
At Josh Soroka.
Thanks for listening, boys and girls. And as always, go O's.